Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation. It's been a while, but I'm here. It's 2018, and I thought, what better way to start off the new year than looking back at 2017? And I think it's safe to say, no matter who you are, what your opinions are on politics, Star Wars The Last Jedi, or fidget spinners, no matter what side of what line you're on, 2017 has been divisive. We all need to be stimulated positively, and we all need something that can provide that escape from reality while at the same time keeping us grounded. And for me, it's not just one thing, it's a mixture of a lot of things. And if you watch my channel, then you can probably guess what a few of those things are. And when it comes to my interests, this past year had quite a few disappointments, but 2017 also had a lot to offer. So let's look at some of those things. When it comes to video games, we had a few disappointments maybe, and we had a little bit of loot box BS, but overall we had some really great games come out this year that were a lot of fun, and a lot of different kinds. Resident Evil came back with a great horror game. We got a great throwback title in Sonic Mania, and a lot of other great games. I didn't get to do as many reviews for video games this year as I would have liked, because they are kind of hard to do. They take time. You got to get on every video game on every release, and that's not cheap. So I did play a lot of good games this year though, but nothing stood out in that world like the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo's newest home and handheld console hybrid that really went over big. I've never even touched a Wii U, had absolutely no interest in it, but there was something about the Nintendo Switch I found very appealing. Overall, it's been very efficient, and the option of handheld or big screen may seem like a gimmick, but honestly it's very ideal and was really a great idea. And I think that's mainly because it was executed so well. And of course, with the Nintendo Switch came Zelda Breath of the Wild, one of the best Zelda games of all time, and is now one of my favorite video games of all time. It is so much fun, so immersive, and really a breakthrough in my opinion. And later in the year we got Mario Odyssey, a brand new modern 3D platformer Mario game, which is always a big deal getting a mainline Mario game, and Odyssey turned out to be no disappointment. It's fun for everyone, it's a bright, colorful adventure. It gave us a new experience with an attached sense of nostalgia. And those are pretty much the big highlights when it comes to video games this past year, 2017. When it comes to television and TV shows, we've had some good, some bad, and some eh. I'm really behind on the DC CW shows, and I need to do some catching up, so I can't really talk about those. But when it comes to the Marvel Netflix shows, we got 3 this year. I mean, what a world we live in. First, we got Iron Fist, which overall was a disappointment. I liked it enough and was just happy we were getting any Iron Fist show, period. But the execution really wasn't great. But I'm glad it exists because, we have a live action Iron Fist, and I think we can take from that bad season 1 and learn from it and make an awesome Iron Fist in the future. And that's what they call optimism. The Defenders came out in August, and it was mostly good, but it came to an underwhelming climax. But it was great getting the characters together, and some of their interactions were the best parts of the season, especially the interactions between Iron Fist and Luke Cage. As a comic fan, that was just awesome and made me excited to see more. But the standout when it comes to the Marvel Netflix shows was by far The Punisher. I didn't get a Punisher review out, but I really did like it a lot. I thought the story was compelling and really had a lot to say and made some great points that are relevant, even if it was a little on the nose, but I think it needed to be. I love what they did with the character of the Punisher. I thought they did a great job making you feel sympathy for him and really understanding who he is as a person and his motivations, what he's been through, and making him feel like a broken but real person without toning him down from what you'd expect of his comic book counterpart. Jon Bernthal does a great job conveying all of that, and his performance is awesome. There's no question in my mind he was the perfect casting choice to play Frank Castle. I thought a lot of the cast did really great. I really liked Micro and the relationship that develops between him and Frank. It wasn't overpacked with violence and action, but When it was there, it was earned, and it meant something. The 7th season of Game of Thrones is come and gone. Those who are all caught up in the series know that you can finally start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And as we get closer, I realize I don't want to leave this tunnel at all. But honestly, I really love this past season of my favorite show. It had some of the greatest and most memorable moments of the whole series. Is it very obvious we've passed the books and the words of George R.R. Martin? Yes. Is the show as flawless as it once was? No. But it's still really good and of great quality, and at this point, I'm pretty much in it till the end. Quick anime shout out, Attack on Titan Season 2 came out finally, and I had a lot of fun with that. I love the animation and the action of that show. I thought this season did a decent job expanding everything going on right now. The first season seemed to focus a lot more on Eren and his close group, but this season focused on some other characters in different situations, which was cool, and it moved the story along, and it really came to a thrilling climax. So that was a quick look at some of the things from 2017, but we're not done yet. It's time to get into the movies. And 2017 was an interesting year for movies. We had a lot of really good quality movies come out. Smaller movies, big budget movies, superhero movies, and we've also had some letdowns. So as I get into my list of disappointments, honorable mentions, and my top 10 of the year, I just want to point out a couple big films that I haven't seen and can't really talk about, but if I had seen them, I probably would be talking about them. I haven't seen Pixar's Coco, which I've heard a lot of great things about. It's a movie I really do want to see, I just haven't had the chance yet, so I can't really put it in my list or add it as an honorable mention. Obviously, I haven't seen it yet. Who knows, maybe I won't like it, but I'm sure I will. I also haven't seen a few of the movies getting a lot of Oscar buzz like Lady Bird or Call Me By Your Name. I've heard great things. I also haven't seen Darkest Hour. Gary Oldman looks amazing in that. Haven't seen that yet. So there's a couple movies I haven't seen, but I'm pretty confident in my list as I have it right now. So let's get into the biggest disappointments of the year for me. Now, this isn't necessarily what I think are the worst films of the year. In fact, I didn't go out of my way to see a lot of bad movies because why would I do that? It's not like I get paid to do this. So, I did have some big disappointments though. Based on my own expectations, these were the biggest disappointments to me. Justice League. I didn't get a chance to review this movie either, but I actually did like this movie and what it did have to offer. The big problem was what it didn't give us, which was a whole lot. So even though I liked Justice League well enough, it was a disappointment by far. It's the Justice League, the pinnacle of the comic book and superhero realm, the dream team, not DC's version of the Avengers. In fact, the Avengers are Marvel's version of the Justice League. People in their 50s and younger have been waiting their entire lives for this movie. And if there was ever a movie you made on a very epic scale, it's this one. Bringing the biggest and most recognizable names in all superheroes together for the first time on film, and you make the movie 2 hours long? It felt rushed, and even though I thought the characters and the members of the League were all good and the best part of the movie, their stories felt all out of context. The villain had no motive that was made clear. He was literally a bad guy to be a bad guy. They don't give any context to anything going on in this movie. If you've seen Batman vs. Superman, you can piece things together, but honestly, I don't know how a general audience member would really understand why the things that are happening other than just to be a movie. Some of the comedy worked, but not all of it landed for me. It had some pretty damn good action scenes, and like I said, the characters are the best part, and so were the actors that played them. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, easily one of the best. Aquaman was as cool as I had hoped, I just wish there was more. And everything with Superman was probably the best stuff in the movie. So really, as far as a Justice League movie goes, it was really underwhelming, but it wasn't a movie that made you mad when you watched it. It did have enjoyable parts, and it had the League together, and that's something. Another disappointment in films this year was Ghost in the Shell. I said in my review I was very in the middle on this movie, but leaned a little more towards the positive side. I thought it was a decent adaptation of the world and concept with beautiful visuals, but as it went on and tried to be more of its own thing, differing from the source material, it didn't add up to anything profound or really that good. And I had a lot of hope for it, but it failed financially and critically, so that's sad. Another anime adaptation this year that was a big disappointment was Death Note. If you see my review for that, this is something I had high expectations for because I thought it could translate well into film if you take the core concept, but that's not what they did. It wasn't executed well at all, and to me it was a really big letdown. Pirates of the Caribbean 5, Dead Men Tell No Tales. When the first 3 films came out, I was a pretty big fan of them. I was still in high school when the third one came out, so since then I've come to realize the first one is really good and the other 2 are just okay at best, and the fourth one really isn't good at all. But I thought this 5th movie would be the return to being great. I figured, okay, it's been a few years, they let the franchise breathe, and now they can come back fresh, and there's no way they'd allow another crappy movie to get made. But it just turned out to be more the same. I don't think it's a horrible movie. It has a few good parts, but it's mainly just the same tired old franchise, and has a lot of stupid stuff in it. The Mummy was supposed to start off the Dark Universe, the cinematic universe that connected all of the Universal classic monsters with elite actors in each of the roles. Again, high expectations, and The Mummy was just a mess of a movie, pretty much destroying this whole cinematic universe as quick as it started, mainly because they tried to put their franchise before a focused narrative. My last big disappointment was Dark Tower. I've never read Stephen King's Dark Tower book or anything like that, but a fantasy movie starring Idris Elba as a gunslinger and Matthew McConaughey as the villain? Yes please. That on paper has so much potential, and the movie just wasn't that good. At least, I don't think it was. Either way, it's really not memorable at all. Felt like there was a lot of potential left on the table when this movie was made. It seemed like a quick, very surface level version of what it could have been. So before I get into my real honorable mentions, I want to give a little shout out to a movie I had a lot of fun with, but I don't think it's of the caliber of the rest of these movies, so I didn't really want to put it in there with those. So you can kind of consider this an honorable mention to my honorable mentions. Kong Skull Island. Yeah, it's not the greatest movie. It has quite a few flaws or whatever. I actually really kind of like this movie for a number of different reasons, I guess. Everything with Kong is amazing. The fight scenes are all great. I love the visuals and the scenery of this movie. The music, I kind of like the Nam feel to it. And it has an awesome cast, even though underutilized and a little underdeveloped, but a great cast nonetheless. And who would have thought in a movie starring Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, Sam Jackson, John Goodman, that John C. Reilly would be the standout character, at least in my opinion. Is this a great movie? No, but I really did have a lot of fun with it, and there's a lot I like about it. So I just wanted to give it a little shout out. Can't wait to see what they do with Kong and Godzilla. But yeah, that's Kong Skull Island. So now it's time to get into the real honorable mentions. The ones that were great movies but couldn't make the cut for my top 10. So my honorable mentions are, and I'm gonna go through them pretty quick. The Lego Batman movie. I thought it was a fun, well done animated feature that really understood Batman and was really pleasing to diehard fans, had great humor for all ages, and executed its themes about family and trust really well. John Wick 2. I love the original John Wick and Keanu Reeves in the role, and this did exactly what a sequel should do. Expanded the world, it doubled down on the amazing action. Outside of the big blockbusters, this is what I want out of my action films. Baby Driver. Great original movie by Edgar Wright. Has a little bit of everything in this movie, and has an amazing cast giving amazing performances across the board, even if one of them is a little tainted now. The Big Sick is a very pleasant movie. I guess it would be considered a rom-com, but it's not in your face with either of those. It's really a drama blended with a lot of genuine comedy. I thought this movie had a lot of heart and was really funny with great performances. It was a huge surprise. The most successful horror movie of all time now. It made more money than a lot of this year's blockbusters, and I thought it was well deserved. It's a scary horror movie, but it also has that adventure, Stranger Things feel to it as well. It's just a good movie, and for a certain age on up, I think it was just a great reason for people to get out of the house and go to the movies. Wind River, a movie that I just recently seen, thought it was really good and what I think is one of the better films this year, but it didn't quite make my cut. And the same goes for my next honorable mention, Dunkirk. Also saw this recently, thought it was a very well made movie. I think if I would have seen this in IMAX, it might even be in my top 10, but it didn't quite make my cut either. My last honorable mention is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I love this movie, and I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. It's a great film. Is it as great a film as the first movie? Probably not, but it feels like the perfect sequel to a movie as great as the first one, doubling down on what people love from the original and getting deeper into the characters and the relationships they all have with each other, being in this new dysfunctional family. The movie was all about family, father and son, sisters, being a loner, coping with the loss of family, and everything this movie does with Yondu's character alone almost gets it into my top 10, but I just couldn't take anything out of my list and make room for it. Okay, so now finally, on to my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Now, these aren't necessarily ranked in order of the best movies of the year, but these are the ones that I consider my favorite, how they made me feel when I watched them and how they resonated with me. So my list is going to be pretty different from most people's lists. You can expect it to be pretty comic book heavy because, I mean, you tell me. But these are my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Don't take the order of these super seriously. I mean, they are ranked in the order I would rank them at the moment, but on any given day, the order could change. These movies are so different, and a lot of them speak to me in different ways, so it's not like my number 6 is I think it's way better than the number 9 film. Nothing like that. It's just how it laid out today, and who knows, tomorrow I could have a different order. Except for my top 3. The top 3 are pretty solid, and I'm pretty sure those wouldn't change at all.
Okay, AnTalk's official top 10 favorite movies of 2017. Number 10. Wonder Woman. This was one of the most significant movies of the year, and when it was first released, I really felt that significance and what it did for a lot of people and the character and what she represents. This definitely enhanced the experience for me and got this movie into my top 10. It is really good. It's really enjoyable. Even though it's a superhero origin story, something about it felt familiar yet fresh. It had one of the greatest scenes in any movie this year, known as the No Man's Land scene. It's not a flawless film, and there are better movies than Wonder Woman, but I think it deserves a spot on my top 10 based on impact alone. Patty Jenkins did a great job directing this film, but I love Gal Gadot's portrayal of Wonder Woman, and while the movie might have only just cracked my top 10, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is easily in my top 5 character portrayals of the year. Number 9. Get Out. Now, I really struggled with this ranking. I had it at 8, but another movie kind of bumped that out. But seriously, this movie was quite the surprise, coming from the mind and directorial debut of Jordan Peele from the comedy sketch series Key and Peele. I thought this was a great movie. It's a small movie, but it had so much commentary on aspects of our society that I think are very relevant today, and he approached it in a way that you didn't see coming at all. I loved the performances. The acting made all the awkward situations seem so cringeworthy. I just love this movie, and I love how this movie is drenched in the influence horror movies had on Peele. Number 8. Spider-Man Homecoming. Depending on the day, this movie could be ranked higher or lower. I really thought it was a fun movie that got the point of Spider-Man, made the character seem fresh. I liked how it tied into the rest of the MCU. I think Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man, and we got one of the best Marvel movie villains in Michael Keaton as Vulture. It was everything a Spider-Man movie should be. It was fun, made you feel young, made you feel inspired and entertained. Number 7, The Shape of Water. From the visionary filmmaker Guillermo del Toro. I just seen this film recently and I really liked it. I had it at number 9, but it's really stayed with me since I've seen it, and I like it the more I think about it and analyze it. So I moved it to number 8, and then eventually I moved it to number 7. But this really is an original film that deserves a lot of praise, with a great cast and incredible performances, with a great antagonist in Michael Shannon, great supporting cast in Octavia Spencer and Richard Jenkins, and the film is carried by 2 leads that don't talk. Sally Hawkins plays a mute woman who forms a connection and relationship with a water creature or river god portrayed by Doug Jones in a very practical costume that has very little CGI, bringing this monster to life. It's a very creative film with a lot of heart and a lot to say when you really break it down, but bringing this world and characters to life and making that relationship compelling and believable was really incredible work by Del Toro. It's really an adult fairy tale, and it's the movie I'm really rooting for this award season. Number 6, The Disaster Artist. James Franco stars and directs this movie based on the life of Tommy Wiseau in the making of his movie, The Room. Considered to be one of the worst movies of all time, but is so entertainingly bad that people can't help but have a good time with it. And since its release, it's acquired a huge fan base and a cult following. And the movie Franco made about making that movie is really amazing. He captures the very strange and unique personality of Tommy Wiseau perfectly. And even though you can't help but make fun of it all, the movie does a great job showing the heart and determination of Wiseau, and isn't cruelly making fun of this person, even though this guy and his life is hilarious. And I don't think more than a minute goes by in this movie without making you laugh or at least chuckle. Number 5, War for the Planet of the Apes. The third film in this Planet of the Apes trilogy, centering on the character Caesar, played by Andy Serkis, the king of motion capture performance. I put this so high on the list because when I saw it in theaters, I just remember being so engaged in the movie. I mean, yes, it's a very good movie, but I'm not sure if it was just the day or what, but I was just so engaged watching this movie. I just ate up every scene. I wanted to cry at moments. I thought the character journey Caesar goes through was amazing, and Woody Harrelson plays a good villain. So yeah, just looking back at how this resonated with me the day I saw it, it has to be in my top 5. Number 4, Blade Runner 2049. This is the sequel to Blade Runner, a movie that's almost 40 years old. This movie was directed by Denis Villeneuve, and it did not do a good job at the box office, which is a shame, because I really like this movie, and it's really a great movie, and I really love seeing it in IMAX. The visuals and the sound and the score alone make this movie worth seeing. The story I thought did a good job as a sequel. It told a new story involving new and old characters, and it touched on a lot of the same themes, but either expanded on it or gave us a new way to look at it. But what I love most about this movie is just being in the world. I love being immersed in LA 2049, and I just think the overall tone and atmosphere really hits me hard. The cast and the performances are also really good, but just being in this world just got this movie into my top 5. Number 3, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. So I know apparently you have to either love this movie or hate this movie, and I'm sorry, but I love this movie. It's number 3 on my top 10. It gave me some of the greatest Star Wars I've ever seen. I gotta watch myself because I could just go on and on and on about this movie, but like I said, it gave me some of the greatest Star Wars. I thought it was a good movie. I love what it did with the characters. I thought the performances were all pretty good, especially from Mark Hamill. I love everything they did with Luke Skywalker. It was everything I had hoped, but done in a way I didn't know I wanted, and I really ended up liking it. It has some really awesome action scenes and character scenes, but this movie is not perfect. It does have some flaws, and that's what keeps it at 3, not 2 or 1. I don't want to get into spoilers at all, so it just has some problems for me, but overall, I love this movie. It's Star Wars. It meant so much to me. What can I say? Number 2, Thor Ragnarok. By far the most fun I've had at the movie theater this year. This is the most fun movie of the year. I love the characters. It's just such a comic booky movie, but it's so funny too. It's probably one of the funniest movies I saw of the year. Some of the best action I've seen in the year. Some of the best use of music I've seen in the year. This is easily the best of the Thor films, but I also think it's one of the best Marvel films. At least it's one of my favorite now. I love the tone and the direction Taika Waititi, the director, took this movie. It's got so many awesome characters, and it seemed like every actor in every role just had a blast making this movie. Cate Blanchett as Hela is probably one of Marvel's best movie villains now. It's a beautiful movie. Some of the shots are just gorgeous, and the pacing of this movie just feels so tight and perfect that it's just a fun ride, and there's really not a dull moment in the movie. And it was easily one of the best movie-going experiences I had this year. Number 1, Logan. So I think Logan is really one of the best films of the year. To me, it's my favorite film of the year. I think it deserves to be at least considered for Best Picture at the Oscars. I think you can even look at Patrick Stewart's performance as Professor X and consider him for Best Supporting Actor. This really is a great movie. Yes, it's about Wolverine. It's based on comic books, but it just feels like this Western sci-fi drama, and it really is not about the big action set pieces, but it's about character. It's not the happiest movie. It's not like Thor Ragnarok where I'm just going to watch it over and over and over again and have a great time. But this is something I really appreciate existing. It's finally the good solo Wolverine movie we've been waiting on. I just feel like this movie has so much to offer because it was a story first, and it really focused on the characters and the story and really just nailed the tone they were going for. It definitely transcends the comic book movie and superhero genre and really should be looked at and appreciated as a great film. And they didn't tone it down, they made it rated R, and they really let Wolverine let loose and made it the way it's supposed to be. Hugh Jackman is amazing in this movie as Logan. You can tell he really cares. Same with Patrick Stewart, like I said. All of that combined, I think, is why this movie has to be my number 1 movie of the year. Okay, so that's it. That's my look back at 2017, the good stuff, the disappointments, and of course my top 10 movies of the year. And I think there's a lot coming in 2018, a lot to be anticipated. And I hope over the year to make a lot more content, and I hope to see you around on AnTalk, the weekly Comic-con-versation. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Thanks for watching, and take care. Hey guys, did you like this video? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos,
click right here on this icon to become a subscriber. And if you are a subscriber, don't forget to ring that bell so you can stay updated with all my videos. And if you want to see another video just like this one, click right here. And as always, thanks for watching AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation.